Ira has seen the movie. I have not. By the time we interview Nick Kroll, I will have seen the movie. But we're going to structure this as Ira deciding whether or not I should see it. And then I will decide whether I agree. So go ahead.
No. Welcome to Keep It, Cricket Media's show about pop culture and politics and what happens when they smack into each other at an alarming speed. I'm your host, Ira Madison III. I'm a television writer and Fall Out Boy fan.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm a TV writer and Jane Fonda historian.
Let's get into it. We are back with an all-new episode of Keep It. I'm Ira Madison III.
I'm Louis Fertel. I'm in a hotel in New York, and natural lighting is beaming on my face. And in this Zoom, guys, the lighting is so amazing. Do you know what I look like? Washed out in a good way. I look like Shania on the cover of Come On Over. Just like eyes, lips, and naughty.
Okay, I was getting more of a Truman Capote vibe.
Oh, thanks. Wow.
In cold blood,
Yes.
that's what. Yeah, there are no red blood cells in you right now.
No, yes. I'm giving Desperate Crush on a Prisoner. That actually is a really good movie, Capote. It's been ages since I've seen it. But sullen Catherine Keener as Harper Lee. Trusty. Fag hag but low key. Unusual mode for somebody to play. Enjoyed it.
Remember when we were getting a lot of Capote movies?
Yes, we had Infamous with Toby Jones and Sandra Bullock as Harper Lee. That's one of the crazier things we've done.
It's just wild to think about a moment when Hollywood was like obsessed with Truman Capote.
And it must
like
have
currently.
been it must have been because of the specific voice. Mm-hmm. Like maybe that's just an actor's dream or something. But otherwise, nothing about him screams Hollywood should pay attention to this truly sniveling gay man.
Yeah, they did Breakfast at Tiffany, and then they were like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Initially, back in the 50s.
Yeah, no one was rushing to make Other Voices, Other Rooms a thing. Look it up, by the way. Great.
Well, actually, I think that might have been the cover I was referring to when you were looking very translucent from the natural lighting. There's a great essay on Truman Capote in Hilton Alza's book, White Girls, that people should read.
Oh, and what's the nature of it?
It talks about, his favorite white women, and he considers Truman Capote to be one of them because Truman Capote was very, effeminate and learned from like Harper Lee and like the other women like of his time. But when he wasn't taken seriously as an author, he shifted hard into masculine with In Cold Blood.
Oh, interesting. He also was not taken seriously, and this is justified, as an actor. Have you ever seen the movie Murder by Death?
Of course I've seen Murder by Death.
Okay, well, it's a movie that's sort of fallen off the planet. It's this Neil Simon movie that is, this is exactly what it is, a precursor to Clue. It's a murder mystery in a house, and all of the characters are based on famous detectives in lore. So there's one based on Charlie Chan. That's, of course, Racist Yellowface by Peter Sellers. There's Miss Marple send-up, etc. And Truman Capote has a sort of plum role as a mysterious member of the household. And it's just shocking to see this man interact with other people in real time, being campy on purpose. It's like a Warhol-esque moment for him. But anyway, I believe he was Golden Globe nominated for that too. The Golden, and by the way, the Golden Globes are back. Thank God. We should get into that.
But. My father, Peter Falk, is in that film.
Oh wait, is Peter Falk one of your faves? I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I fucking love Columbo.
Oh yeah, one of the great shows. It's also on Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest TV Shows list, which I was fuming about the other day. Have you peered at that?
I have not looked at that, but is it a part of your Keep It?
You know what? Maybe I'll save it for that. I will replace my Keep It with the Rolling Stone list. Even though Alan Sepinwall, who writes most of the TV stuff for Rolling Stone, I think wrote the captions for that list. And they're well-written captions, and I am not shading those. Love his work. But some of the choices. Yeah, we'll get into it. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Getting quickly back to Murder by Death.
Yes. Also starring Eileen Brennan, who is also in Clue. Anyway, moving on.
I think one of the most basic things about me is that I like Neil Simon.
Now, are you sure about that? I can see it coming out of your mouth, and you like how it sounds. But name the project where you like Neil nailed it.
Rumors.
That it literally in his top 3. I would say the Sunshine Boys with George Burns, also top 3. But I mean, have you seen California Suite recently? It's uncomfortable to be mad at Jane Fonda, and I was.
Well, I was even taking it back when I said it, because I do remember that I saw Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick in Plaza Suite, which is one of the worst theatrical experiences of my life.
I've heard that from multiple people. Now, why was that bad? Because obviously they're both stage veterans, and he specifically is a Neil Simon veteran.
I think we've maybe passed the point for comedy about upper middle class people from the 60s in New York.
Right. None of that resembles reality anymore.
Yes. The comedies were very much appealing to, the Broadway audience of that time. And I think the humor is a little stale. It's not very updated. And it just felt so kitschy. It felt like I was literally plopped into a production from that era. But it didn't have any of, I don't know, like the energy that maybe it had then. I don't know if there was energy. I mean, like people were getting shivved in Times Square then. So there had to be some energy,
right,
just to make it to the theater alive. But now it's like, you're just walking past TKTS. So.
Right. No, but it is interesting to think about. Neil Simon once upon a time was like the definitive Broadway voice, and that he was the exciting new voice. And it's hard to place what the thing was that people were so craving that but it's like, I guess we just didn't really have light, chill comedies, like things before that were a little bit more screwball or broader maybe. So the fact that it was even a step closer to reality is maybe what appealed to people. He gave fine roles to, I think, people like Maureen Stapleton. Maybe that was thrilling at the time. I don't know.
I enjoy his memoir rewrites.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I saw him. I saw him at a hotel in L.A. once, and that was shocking to see. Because I mean, he's died now, and he was with his wife, Elaine Joyce, match game veteran Elaine Joyce, and it's like seeing a building or something. Just an actual institution in front of you. There wouldn't be an entire arm of theater without this person.
Yeah, I mean that was sort of like when I truly cannot remember where I was, but like I saw James L. Brooks at a place, and I was just like, it's weird to think of. First of all, it was weird to think that like I know what you look like. Right.
Sort of like being recognized from a podcast. It's like, how did you do that?
Right. Because we're actual television nerds if we know what James L. Brooks looks like.
Right.
Yeah, but
Which, by the way, speaking of which, last night I saw Kate Berlant's show in New York. If you guys know Kate Berlant, wonderful, irreverent comic. Often going cross-eyed in the middle of saying something sincere. That's sort of a big part of what she does. She works with John Early a lot. I'm sure you're familiar with her. Saw her show. And then afterwards I was talking to her and I said, God, crazy people must walk through this theater to see you because everybody's heard of you, wants to see you. And she goes, the craziest was seeing James L. Brooks, who apparently was unbelievably nice. But I was thinking, like, James L. Brooks does not have a single credit that's bad, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm like going through them. What an unbelievable career. And then like to move into the Oscars territory with Terms of Endearment, simply shocking. I love all these up-to-date references we keep making. Neil Simon, James L. Brooks, thrilling.
Yeah, every season of Taxi wasn't a winner.
Well, people came and went on that show. Man, I'm sure I talked about this on the podcast before. I'm obsessed with Marilu Henner interviews, period, because she has such an amazing memory. If you haven't seen that 60 Minutes, look it up. But
if you haven't seen the CBS TV show based on it.
Oh, yes, Unforgettable, starring Poppy Montgomery. Yes, which may still be on, who knows. But on Taxi, stories about Andy Kaufman. I'm not into Andy Kaufman comedy. I don't want to see his comedy, but I do want to see traumatized actors talking about what they had to do to put up with Andy Kaufman on set. Like Judd Hirsch being unamused that he came in dressed like Tony Clifton. That I could watch a movie about. Just an oral history of moments like that.
I'm glad you got to see Kate's show. I really enjoyed it. And I think that like the theater is still one of those places where you get a show like that. I'm sort of envious of her because that's one of the you have a movie, a TV show, fine, people will watch it, but like a show that's like popular and people are talking about it, like on Broadway or off Broadway, which is even better if it's off Broadway. The people who come to see it, because they want to be in the know, you're gonna get everybody trucking through there.
Right. And of course, it's like a smallish theater, too. So that becomes a theater on its own. You know what I mean? This is just the name that's coming to mind. Timothée Chalamet's in the front row or whatever. What is he thinking of that weirdly super irreverent comedy that only a Twitter gay person would understand? Is he getting it? Is he picking up the references? But seriously, 2 nights ago, I went and saw Titanic in New York. You know what that is? The send-up of Titanic with an actress playing Celine Dion, who is now in the movie Titanic. It's very goofy, but it's very what you want a Second City review to be, is what I would say about that play. Super, super fun. But 2 seats in front of me, you know who was there? Tim Gunn. And I kept thinking, is Tim Gunn even hyper aware enough of Celine Dion to understand, first of all, that every song in this send-up is a Celine Dion song and not something that the writers have written? Like, they didn't write I Surrender, or they didn't write whatever, Tell Him, or whatever it is. But I kept thinking, this is somebody who knows about asymmetrical hemlines only. He was built in a lab to talk about asymmetrical hemlines, and now he is here receiving irreverence about Kathy Bates. Is he capable of that? I don't know.
I feel like Tim Gunn has listened to the original French Celine Dion albums. Okay,
oh, you think so?
He loves La Voix du Bon Dieu. He loves the first album, puts it on at a dinner party. Oh, this is Celine's first album.
Yeah. I mean, because he's sort of like a modern day, this sounds super glib, but like kind of Truman Capote type person. Like rolling in society, looks a certain way, laughs not too hard at anything, but has a kind of upper crusty vibe, and like the irreverence of an off-Broadway show. I just wonder how it lands, if he feels obligated still to quote unquote get it.
Is Heidi Klum his Harper Lee?
Oh my God, maybe. Yes.
To kill a seal.
Yeah. To kill a seal. Go set a hemline. Yes.
To wrap this up, I would say maybe my wildest someone's in the theater with me moment was seeing Tyra Banks at the all-black Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The one like Anika Noni Rose was in,
yes.
James Earl Jones, Felicia Rashad, Terrence Howard, and 3-act play. She obnoxiously got up during each act with her bodyguard and was ushered out as if no one speak to me during intermission, and then returned once everyone was seated. It's like, girl, you're holding up the show, and this show is long.
Yes, it's among the longer things. Period. But you're saying she was ushered out like as the act was still ending?
As soon as it ended.
Oh wow!
She hopped up, ushered out, and then made sure she was the last person to return to her seat each time.
Wow. I don't think
either that or she really needed a cigarette break.
Could be. Yeah, I want her opinions on the works of Tennessee Williams, period.
Yeah. The other person was I sat next to Jesse Eisenberg during a behanding in Spokane, one of Martin McDonagh's lesser plays.
Sure. Ira said that with the widest possible eyes, if you didn't pick up on the inflection there. Yeah.
And I love Martin McDonagh plays, so if I say that, it really hurts.
Right. He did do 3 billboards, but I know that's not his main thing. Moving on.
Anyway, speaking of Kate Berlant, she's also in Don't Worry, Darling.
Yes.
And this is the grand finale of us talking about Don't Worry, Darling.
The trilogy, finally.
And believe it or not, we have one of the stars of the film with us. Guys, Florence Pugh is here.
Shackled. Yes. Help, she's screaming.
Can you imagine?
She will be on this show. Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I truly believe that in my heart. But like, can you imagine if she was just like, you know what? It's over. I'm going to call up Keep It, and I'm going to tell everything.
First of all, we don't have a phone number here at Keep It, but she would know it somehow and call it.
We used to have a phone number.
Oh my God,
I'm sure
we
it still
did.
works.
Yeah.
We used to take listener.
Somebody give it a shot.
We used to take listener voicemails. I'm sure it's like 555 Keep It or something. It's somewhere.
Yeah.
So, the Keep It graveyard of things. Our phone number is there. Also, Rihanna's hosting the Super Bowl, so we're going to get into that.
And also our actual guest is Nick Kroll. Did we say that?
Oh, no, we didn't say that. We didn't say that.
Yes.
We're beating the joke into the ground.
A motherfucking hilarious man and also heartfelt man.
Yeah. You can't be a man in comedy without wearing your heart on your sleeve now. Just like Cher Horowitz.
There was some tweet. I wish I could identify the author. I apologize. But he said, oh, yeah, my partner and I are a comedy team. I'm the trauma guy. He's the grief guy. Mocking where comedy has gone in recent years. It's super funny. Yeah.
Nick Kroll is one of my faves. He's great. So we will be right back with more Keep It. After months of gossip and headlines and 2 breathless episodes of Keep It, where we documented the entire press tour of Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry, Darling, it has finally debuted in theaters and claimed the top spot at the box office.
Do you think it would have done that anyway? Without all this?
Maybe. Harry Styles fans are rabid.
Right. No, I mean, there's 6 actually mobilized fan bases on Earth. Lady Gaga is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Selena Gomez is one of them. White supremacy is one of them. And then
the Iggy fans?
Styles. Yeah.
Yeah, he's sold out 15 consecutive nights at Madison Square Garden.
And speaking of 15 consecutive anything, 15 weeks at number 1 with As It Was, a song that is fine. I don't want to turn it off. It sounds it has a throwback to a band like Travis vibe. But 15 weeks at number 1, bitch, you don't have what Los Del Rio has. Don't start.
You know what? I do like the song, and it's funny because we've talked extensively about Harry on this show about whether we're into the music, the performance. I feel like I need to see him. I need to see him not at Coachella because Coachella wasn't the vibe for me. But maybe it's also he's not the vibe when you're in a desert on a lot of substances.
Sure.
Maybe I need to be at Madison Square Garden to take that in. You need the spectacle of going to a concert. Going to see a show.
I just feel like he's one of those people where it would literally be like the Beatles, where you can't hear the music. The people are so rhapsodic, and that gif of a woman opening her mouth in the Oprah audience and melting into oblivion.
I love that video, and that I believe that is from one of her first favorite things episodes.
When people had no idea what they were getting into.
Yeah, you think you're just going to see an Oprah episode, and she's like, "You're gonna get a car."
Yeah, drop kicking vehicles at you. Yeah.
Side note: the way that those women were horny and rabid in the audience by Oprah saying favorite things is terrifying.
The way they immediately knew they could take up space in the aisles. They're like, I'm leaving my seat. I'm pacing around. Because Oprah runs a tight ship. So
yeah, but my favorite things is her favorite blood sport.
Yeah.
People die.
Oprah's favorite things is her Ellen's Game of Games. Yeah. Where, gladiatorial, people get lost in the quicksand. Yeah.
But anyway, getting back to this film.
Oh, yeah. Also, I will say this. So we are taping this as Ira has seen the movie. I have not. By the time we interview Nick Kroll, I will have seen the movie. But we're going to structure this as Ira deciding whether or not I should see it. And then I will decide whether I agree. So go ahead.
No.
No.
Let me give a more nuanced answer.
Please.
This movie's a trip.
What? Yeah. So it's a thriller. It feels like something that can be very easily spoiled.
Yes, it can be, and there obviously is a twist. There's always a twist.
And by the way, there's only like 5 satisfying movie twists in history. So if you have a big twist that your movie hinges on, might end up being bad.
Yeah, and the number one is
The Bible.
Oh, all
No.
right.
Wait, the number one twist of all time, Psycho?
Sure. My number one twist in a film is J-Lo's second act.
Oh, right.
The plant from Hiroshima.
Yes. Yes, it's not Marry Me. Second act is the one where it's a parenting twist, correct?
Yes, and then also she has a plant that survived Hiroshima. Which she mines to create like the best makeup that doesn't fall off when you cry or something.
That's exactly how science works. That reminds me, of course, of the movie The Boy Next Door. Wait, is that the name of that movie that J-Lo was in?
The Boy Next Door. Yeah, with the first original edition of the Iliad.
She had a first edition of the Iliad, back before there was like normal paper.
Yeah. You know what? You thought that started as an oral history, but actually it was the first podcast.
That's right.
And the first edition book is actually just a transcription of that.
Oh. Available on the Crooked website. No.
Right next to some coffee.
Yes, that's right. They love it there.
Was funny thinking about Homer just like going around telling this long ass story, just several long ass stories. It's like the Odyssey and the Iliad are both very long, and you just being like, "Girl, I've heard this part before." Or
Move
you
it
being
along.
like, or it's just like the. I love like old like films like set around that time too. There's always like some old man or some woman like sitting by a fire. They're like, "Tell us about Medusa again. Tell that favorite story of yours about the Argonauts." I'm like,
yes. Yes, right. We're doing like their little witch fingers as I tell you about Circe. Anyway, back to Don't Worry, Darling. So here's the thing. I feel like all the fear around this movie has been somewhat obviously veiling the fact that this is a rather conventional film.
It is. It's honestly like a conventional thriller too. I mean, any thriller that lands on the blacklist, it's not.
The blacklist has done us wrong. It has done, or
it's
actually,
not going to be the French Connection, okay?
Right, correct. Actually, the deal with the blacklist is it just throws into perspective how much a movie's success is about the production and not just the script, or how you can like you can even write the errors of a script via the production.
But like it's also like the script in Hollywood. Like the script was great. Like what does that mean anymore? Because this script was rewritten anyway by Katie Silverman.
But it's like when I think of the blacklist, I think of The Beaver being on it. That Mel Gibson directed movie with a young Jennifer Lawrence.
He's so good. When is he going to come on Keep It?
Mel Gibson. He is so good. Guys, here's the last word.
Daddy's Home too. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Year of Living Dangerously, the man was fine. And so was Linda Hunt. Moving on.
I try to think about the actors we would have interviewed if this podcast was on in like the 80s, 90s, and how many of them we could then never invite back.
Right. No.
Because they're evil now.
No, Mickey Rourke, there'd be a lot of problems.
Antonio Sabato Jr.
Wow. I mean, we would be interviewing him for his one credit.
Melrose Place.
Yes, that's right. No, but okay. Don't Worry, Darling. Does Florence at least give an A+ performance?
She's great. Sorry, and also if you can't tell, we keep talking about anything else.
Right.
But she's good. She's very good in a film that I can't even say whether or not, like people are really bad. It's just that it's sort of like not given a lot to do. She has a lot of scenes that are sort of just by herself, figuring out things. And, David Fincher had the wherewithal to give Jodie Foster, Kristen Stewart in Panic Room, while she's like a woman figuring out things. But a woman figuring out things film is always sort of like a letdown. And I feel like it's a common thing we've seen, like The Forgotten, like a film like that. But it's just sort of like, it's just scenes of like Florence Pugh just like standing around in this 50s style house, like, or walking around the desert, like looking at things and thinking. And I'm like, is that entertaining?
Well, that can be compelling in a certain type of movie, like a Todd Haynes movie, for example. But I feel like all these movies, like what you're talking about, want to be Rosemary's Baby. And there is just not a second one of those movies, even including the great, I was about to call it The Inheritance. What's the Toni Collette movie called? Hereditary.
I mean, I know you don't love Hereditary as much as you should, but that's okay.
I just thought 20 minutes of it was a little bit too Rosemary's Baby, though the rest of it I thought was great. The family tragedy part of it, the part that reminds me of Rabbit Hole, I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it always sort of harkens back to Rosemary's Baby. And like the reason I think Hereditary is a great movie, because it's about a woman, like, quote unquote, figuring things out, but it's also linked to family trauma, and it's saying something. I think that ultimately the twist in Don't Worry, Darling doesn't say much.
Yeah, the twist has to be loaded. There has to be some poetry going on.
Yeah, I mean, and it says something, but it's sort of just, so it's a slate essay.
Ooh, got it. Oh, so it could have just been a paragraph instead of a movie.
Yeah.
No, wait. Okay, well, let's get to Harry Styles. What was he bringing thespian-wise? Is he...
Here's the biggest twist of this film. His character is British.
It's never been done. Why is he British in this movie?
Because he is British,
right?
And so familiar. I also couldn't tell if he's acting British because of the twist. I was very confused by the end of the film, but for the most part, those scenes that we were seeing online, where people were like, he's slipping in and out of his accent. I think that was just his modulation in screaming and acting, because that character is British. He's using his own accent in the majority of the film.
Oh, I see. So some of our fear about that clip was, I don't know about misdirected, but we could have used more information.
Yeah, it wasn't, he's doing like 6 different accents in one scene. He's just doing one, but it's, he's making choices.
Got it. What would you
say? More
say
than Sophie ever did.
She really only had to make one choice ultimately.
Did she make the right one?
And by the way, it was like tomato. She's like, This one's closer to you. Take her. What is the high point of this movie?
The high point of the movie is realizing it's a Nazi allegory. I'm kidding. But it also is. The high point of the movie, honestly, is watching it in the theater. I saw it in the Williamsburg cinema, and at a certain point, the audience had some things to say.
As in they were upset?
No, upset is just sort of, that instance where, you sort of like lose an audience to the point where they don't hate it, but it's like people, they're okay with people like openly like making fun of this movie while watching it.
Oh, sure.
And it became that. There's also, there was a more recent drama coming out this week, right? Where like Kiki Lane tweeted like,
yes,
all my scenes were cut, but at least I met my new man on the set of this film.
Which is that smart of her to post? I mean, like, I know like everybody gets cut out of movies sometimes, just like in editing, like it's more convenient if things get trimmed out or whatever. But it's not
just has
good.
3 scenes though, and it sort of is wild that a lot of the twist and Florence's realizing things hinges on this. So I get it. But I think that I was happy to see her in less of the film because there was not a black hairstylist on set, and I was concerned every time I saw Kiki on screen.
What's like the most egregious example of that, where there are black characters in a movie and you can tell the people behind the scenes aren't who they should be?
Most Halle Berry films.
Oh, that's a good answer. That makes sense to me.
The wigs. She's
Yeah,
constantly in
the
distress.
wigs move independently of her. Yeah, it's looking one way and she's looking the other. Yeah,
It's like that movie Bad Hair.
due to the bad hair, right?
Yeah. Also, a more fun film than Don't Worry, Darling.
Wow, Don't Worry, Darling is taking a beating right now. Luckily, there are truly so many movies I'm looking so forward to. So
I wouldn't recommend not watching it, and LOL us discussing this before we interview Nick. But it's I think that all of the controversy, having endured it, it's worth seeing the film. But I unfortunately am not compelled by it much at all. And I think that Olivia Wilde was a rad person when we met her. And I thought that Booksmart was very fun and interesting too. There's unfortunately just not a lot here.
Were you at all consumed with the idea of what Shia LaBeouf would have been like in it?
Honestly, by the time we got to the film, I forgot about him. I don't think he would have been that much more compelling in the film either, to be honest.
Honestly, based on what I'm hearing about this movie now, it kind of would have been a strange choice for him. Like, it feels not, I don't know, crazy.
His Disturbia era.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Which was an era I supported once upon a time.
Yeah, his
that movie's good. And
his
I'm
Eagle Eye era.
Same era, yes. I was very cautious about a Rear Window update, and then it turned out to be really good. But then I realized spying on people as just a casual citizen or whatever is like a universally interesting idea. I don't think Rear Window even invented that. But
and here's the thing, it's fun. It's basically one of those movies, So like, go see it in the theaters if you want to know about the conversation surrounding it. It's going to be one of those movies where you're like, I don't know if this made sense. Or you watch it on a plane. But is it essential cinema? No. And did it really sort of like make the case for Olivia Wilde as a, like force to be reckoned with? No.
All right. Well, here I go to see it now because I have to be involved, and people are going to come up and talk to us about this movie for at least another 4 months. So I don't want to be blowing smoke.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be in the Oscar race.
but for what? Yeah.
Honestly, it might get a Golden Globe nom.
No. If ever a movie ended up at the Golden Globes, it is Don't Worry, Darling. Is there an original song they can toast or something? You know what I mean?
No, but Harry Styles does do a very weird, like, dance in the film that is out of nowhere. And it's very I Got No Strings on Me.
Okay.
So,
and by the way, we are inundated with Pinocchio culture at the moment, so I don't know if I appreciate that.
Honestly, it's a little bit Pinocchio allegory too. It reminds you of the the boys turning into like donkeys. That creepy part. I will actually say the end of the movie is thrilling. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is thrilling in a madcap Austin Powers sort of way.
Ooh. A name I did not expect to hear in this conversation, and God, we've missed him. So
yeah.
Speaking of legitimate Britishness,
so yeah, I think we'll probably have an addendum to the Don't Worry, Darling press tour drama, because who doesn't love on-set drama that is then revisited during an awards circuit?
Yes. Please. Yes. Having
bring
to
everybody back together. Come on.
Right. Tell it to Terry Gross now. Yeah.
All right. When we're back, we talk to Nick Kroll about this film, but also his new Netflix special, Little Big Boy, and more. We'll be right back. You know him from Kroll's show, The League, Big Mouth, his latest film, Don't Worry, Darling, which is out now in theaters, and also his new Netflix special, Little Big Boy, which is out now as well. We are delighted to welcome to keep it Nick Kroll.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Your special is out literally now as we are recording this.
It literally it came out as we were recording this. It came out, and it feels so much more free and more who it's always wanted to be. And
Oh, good for it.
yeah, its family is going to have to just learn to deal with it, honestly. And over time, they'll learn to accept it and hopefully embrace it. And if they don't, then that's on them.
Promoting comedy to me, or a comedy special, is difficult because it's just you're telling jokes, which is what you're already doing here. So do you develop strategies for promoting various comedy specials? Like, oh, but this time it's going to be like this.
Well, it's weird because, like, for so, when you do like talk shows for movies or TV or whatever, they always are like, and they quietly are like, and do you have some stand-ups? And like basically being like, and do you have really good material that you want to burn on our show? And for years I've basically been like, yeah, no, I just like, look at my Instagram and figure out if there's something funny that I can say about a picture. And so because it's like you want to save that material, you don't want to burn that material on like a talk show panel. And it was all ultimately towards getting like having fresh material to have for a special. And so now the special's out, and so now the question is what we're doing here material? I guess is
Right.
this, am I burning the next hour here on the podcast? But no, it's this funny thing of like, as you go, it's like you spend, or at least I spent so long like trying to be like as funny as I can be always, but then I slowly have gotten like weirdly more genuine, and the special itself is sort of a little more like vulnerable and revelatory. It's autobiographical in a way that I haven't done other stuff. And so I think as I've gotten older, I've just become more like kind of like, oh, here's what I'm actually feeling right now. And which means it's not always funny. And then I'll try to be funny. And then it's like, I don't know if we're ready to transition from vulnerable Nikki into very serious Nikki, into comedy Nikki. So that's what I just had to say.
I feel like the vulnerability angle is inevitable given after you do so many characters for a certain amount of time, you just want to rest a little bit. Like, what if I just had a sincere moment where I talked to you and, said something earnest? Like, it's easier ultimately. You're giving yourself a break by being vulnerable.
It is. It's also just like, my wife Lily and I, we were talking about it like it's now like 3 or 4 years ago, where she's like, why haven't you done a special yet? And I was like, that's for like Mulaney, that's for Ali Wong, that's for like my friends who are like stand-ups. And part of that was I had done a lot of characters, and my stand-up was sort of character driven, but it felt like both because of Big Mouth, which is obviously like big jokes, and I play a lot of different characters, but it's ultimately very honest and autobiographical about where I was as a kid, and ultimately where I still am. And I think I was pretty rewarded for being more honest, and saw the benefits of that. And so it was like in this hour, it was like, well, I think I'm going to focus on that. And when you find a partner, you in my case, I think my being in a relationship with someone who really values like, let's get into this and really be honest about where we are. It infused what I wanted to talk about on stage. And ultimately it's all still jokes, but I was like, I think I want to be like, let's see what this is, like where I am in my life, and hopefully audiences will not reject it.
Well, speaking of Big Mouth, you have this long-running series, which is beloved by, like older people, younger people. So you've been producing a show for a while, but talking about vulnerability in comedy, it reminds me, I guess, a bit of what's popular now. If you look at like a Ted Lasso or an Abbott Elementary, like these are shows that are winning the awards now, and people are talking about them, and they are much more vulnerable, I would say, than
hard on the sleeve
sitcoms. Yeah, more than sitcoms, than like a Seinfeld, like a happy endings. Like they're not as hard. Do you feel that comedy has shifted this way amongst you and like your other friends who make comedy, or is this just what's popular now?
I think it's. I mean, I think it. I think it really is dependent on the show, but I think culturally, especially after the last few years, it's been a tough couple of years, and so I think shows like like Ted Lasso or Abbott, are I mean, to me, very different from one another, but there is something that I think people were drawn to about it. I think audiences might were a little tired of like sad comedies, or harder, bigger, like little, ones that aren't necessarily feelings driven. The truth is, and the real luxury of my career is that I kind of get to scratch a bunch of different surfaces that I get to, Big Mouth is very vulnerable, but it's some big, hard, crazy jokes that are like super intense for some people. But also big feelings, and that's sort of what I feel like the through line that my career goes on, that I'm trying to, that is the through line for me, is like big feelings, big laughs. Like, I don't think I want to sacrifice either, but with the beauty of my career is that I get to do, depending on the project, different versions of it, like to be able to be very sort of sweet and vulnerable and emotional, and then also do things that are incredible, like, I get to be on like What We Do in the Shadows, and like a show that is pure jokes, that isn't like super feelings driven, and many things in between. And that's a real, I feel the luxury of that,
Speaking of big emotions and big laughs, the Don't Worry Darling press tour. Did you ever know or guess that you would be basically like the statesman of this movie? Like, I'm looking at you now, and I'm like, here's like the sort of refined diplomat of this whole movie. I mean, like, I guess you're now in the middle of promoting it, but what's it been like just talking about this movie? Because, as I'm sure several thousand people have said to you by this point, I can't think of a movie that has made this kind of impression in recent memory. I'm literally thinking of like Ingrid Bergman in Stromboli or something, where people were in a furor about what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, my name and Ingrid Bergman's name are always coming up in the same
getting uttered. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I knew when I got the call from Olivia in, like, it was probably like September 2020. We were in the thick of the lockdown, and I got a call being like, "Hey, do you want to be like my husband in this movie?" And I'd seen the trades of like Harry Styles and Florence Pugh and all that stuff, and I was like, that sounds so fun. I mean, it was an intense thing shooting in the middle of COVID, but I was like, well, this will be fun, and it feels like splashy, and people will know about it. Little did we know what it would be, and I can now say, when the movie, it's a thriller. The less you know about the movie itself, the better. And that's how I planned the whole press tour. I'm sort of the puppeteer, the Svengali of it all. I orchestrated all the drama so that people would be talking about the movie, but not the movie itself. So, I was like, Harry, you should go spit on Chris right now. And then I was like, and then now you can spit in my mouth. And he just gave me a closed mouth kiss, but whatever. You can't give him too much direction. You got to let him do his thing. No, it was so crazy. But for me, I really loved making the movie, and I loved working with everyone on the movie. So for me, it was a very easy, fun. I mean, it was insane. Like, because I've never been a part of something that's felt like the entire world was kind of watching. It felt like that weekend in Venice. It was like, it was a boring weekend it felt like a boring weekend in the States, where it was like, Serena didn't make it to the finals of the US Open. So like, there's nothing else to watch. So like, let's watch this. And for me, it was really fun. Like, I was like, what a trip to be at Venice. It was so exciting to see all these people that I'd worked with, who I really liked working with. And it felt like they were happy to see me. And so it was a blast. I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for everyone else, but it was, I had a blast.
Did you find that your actual friends, like, were more into texting you and asking what was going on? Or have you been more like, a person that people want to talk to at a party lately now? Just because I feel like we were born in America. And when I tell you that every single text chain that I had amongst a friend, even people who, don't even pay attention to things were talking about this movie.
Right.
And then they actually went to see it too, which is shocking.
No, I mean it did well. It's the #1 movie in America, and that is nice because out of all of this and like all the intensity and all the, it would have been a super bummer if the movie came out and nobody went and saw it. But people are seeing it, and I think people are enjoying it in a way that, like, critically it didn't get great reviews. I think that's all tied into the drama, frankly. But people went and saw it, and I hope people continue to, because I think it's a really fun movie going experience. I did get texts from a lot of people. Like, I got married and had a baby, and then I got people reached out to congratulate me, and then I had a massive allergic reaction, and I posted pictures of it, and I got a lot of incoming on that. And then I went to Venice for the premiere of Don't Worry Darling, and I got even more incoming on that. So I don't know what that says about my friends. But it did feel like there was, I could feel the palpable kind of interest in it, and it was a real trip.
I think one of the wildest jumps in the past 7 years I've had while watching a movie is when you appeared in the movie Loving, which just nothing about that movie indicated Nick Kroll was coming. And now that we have Don't Worry Darling, it's like, okay, now you're building sort of a film. Like, you're in the movie Knight of Cups too.
Yes.
Like, your drama choices are whack. It's just like I'm shocked by what you've chosen, and yet also elated because I would never guess that you would care to be in movies like that.
Oh my
And I was
God.
wondering, do they fulfill some sort of impulse for you?
I love it. I mean, I like doing all types of things, and especially, I mean, so much of it is working with cool people, and I'm like, whether it's like Terrence Malick and Knight of Cups. I mean, I'm in the movie for all 15 seconds, but my job, Terrence Malick was like, your job is, you are a torpedo. You are here to disrupt. And so my job for a day or two was to poke Christian Bale. Literally, that was my job. I was there to just incite Christian Bale, and it was very fun. And loving, Jeff Nichols, who made that film, is one of my favorite filmmakers, and working with Ruth and Joel and everyone in that cast. It was I like doing everything. Like, like every comedian, like we all quietly like want to show everybody that we can act, and it makes everything more fun the more that you get to kind of jump into different things. And in this case, I went from shooting something like Don't Worry Darling, which is, I'd never been in a thriller before, and I loved Booksmart. I thought Olivia and I think she's a really, really talented filmmaker, and so it was very fun to do that, and then go back to doing Big Mouth, and then going on the road to do stand up, and going and taping the special and stuff. And I just feel like the more I get to do different things, the more I get to enjoy each of the things that I have the real privilege of doing. And I think because I've done enough of them now, people will, place me in something there where you're not quite expecting someone like me to be. I mean, I think, like, as far as being in Don't Worry Darling with, Gemma and Harry and Kiki and Florence and Olivia. I mean, these are all some of the most beautiful people in the world. Chris Pine. It makes perfect sense that I would then be alongside of them.
Yes. Yes.
As Mad Magazine's sexiest people.
When you are picking, other artists to work with, to be in, like Big Mouth or like Human Resources, like, what do you look for in someone who is going to be, acting mostly with their voice? Like.
Interesting. I mean, so much of Big Mouth was cast are friends of mine, like Jesse Klein, have known forever, and Mulaney and Jason Mantzoukas. I've known Mulaney since college, Jason early days at UCB. Obviously Fred Armisen and Maya, I knew a little later, but have known for quite some time. Jordan Peele, it's an insane cast of people who are my friends, who I also believe to be the most talented people. When we did Human Resources, we expanded that out a little more, and some of whom we brought in earlier, inside of Big Mouth to introduce them, like Kiki Palmer, who you're just looking for people whose voices pop in a way that some of them ended up being some of the biggest like stars in the world, and you understand once you then hear them on the show, where it's like Hugh Jackman comes in and plays an addiction angel, and it's against type for him, but it's just his voice just pops. There's an energy to it. There's a and then there's people like Brandon Kyle Goodman, who was a writer for many years on Big Mouth, and they just came in to be they were doing a voice, you know, they would read through it in the room, you know, like we always have our writers reading through it as we're, you know, writing the scripts, and they were just so talented that it ultimately was like, well, let's not, why are we going to chase someone else when we have such a talented voice right here? And they, you know, they pop on air. It's just like certain voices just pop.
I love Brandon. Brandon's
Yeah.
a very close friend, and also, you know, you did steal our co-host from us too for a bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Issa Rae stole her too. So,
You know, it's a food chain. It's a food pyramid, and that's how it works. And but I think we've been, I think, very fortunate to and I credit our producing team of spotting talent early on, whether, you know, as we've continued to grow the show, we've tried to, you know, get younger, different voices in the room, whether it's like, you know, we had Jabuki Young White for a year before he got the Daily Show, and Joel Kim Booster was, you know, joined us for as long as he could. Aida, Brandon Kyle Goodman, Caleb Heron is been a writer on the show now for a number of years, and in addition to the cast that the writers, you know, it is so much of it. If you can build homegrown talent that then, you know, get to also appear on the show, and the better off you are. It's like you just kind of create this as big a bullpen as possible. And some of them stick around, some of them get different opportunities, and you just try to create an environment where people feel, and you guys know, and I know, like, you know, Lewis is as a writer, but then also as a talent, like you people have aspirations to do more than just write, and oftentimes those people also are super talented performers, and you want to create an environment where they get to do all of that.
When I look through your Wikipedia, everything, Kroll show on down, it's such a constant barrage of different types of characters, performances, etc. When have you been the most out of ideas, and what did you do to regain them?
I think it was at the end of Kroll show. We had done 3 seasons, and I was simultaneously doing the League. And so there was like between the pilot of Kroll show, there was about 4 years where I was either writing and editing or shooting Kroll show or shooting the League, and I made an indie film in there called Adult Beginners with Rose Byrne and Bobby Cannavale in the middle of that. And I got to the end of whatever we were shooting, season 3 of Kroll show, and I was just done. I was just cooked. Like, I was physically exhausted, and I was creatively felt pretty sapped, and I kind of was like, I knew in my head when we were finishing season 3 of Kroll show that I was done. And we ended it, and I just needed a reset. And at that point, Mulaney had just finished the hit show Mulaney, and
oh yes, Nassim Pedrad, yes, I remember.
Yes, and I remember going out to dinner, and we were both sort of sitting there, and we started joking about doing like an Oh Hello show, and we didn't even know what it was, but we were like, well, let's do that. Like, let's go back to where we kind of started, which was these 2 characters on stage, and just like bring the stakes way down, just go back to something that felt really fun. And then Andrew Goldberg, my best friend from childhood, came to me with Mark Levin and Jen Flackett, who he had known for a long time, and they brought me this show, an animated idea for a show about Andrew and I going through puberty. And that felt like such an immediate, like, yes. And so it was like, you know, resetting the clock, letting myself start over, clean the slate. And from that moment came what became the Oh Hello show on Broadway and Big Mouth. And that sort of has now been, as well as other things, but that sort of reset everything. And in that time, I also I pulled back a little bit from the league, which allowed me to go do Loving, and then other things that sort of came after that. So it was really kind of resetting everything and clearing the table a little bit, and then starting fresh. But that was the last time I felt like truly like sapped. And you know, it was very good. I think there's something really healthy about like kind of restarting every once in a while.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you know, not to bring up another traumatic press moment from your life, you know, but you did sort of like become part of the public consciousness in that very popular ABC show, Caveman. And what does that feel like now in retrospect, being on a network show back when also like people were still really watching
paying
network
attention
shows,
to network shows, yes.
And
they weren't watching that one.
Yeah. But what's funny is, even being canceled, I have to imagine more people watched the premiere of Cavemen than watch some of the most popular shows on TV now.
Yes. I mean, I think it was a great, I'm very fortunate that was my first show. One, because I was in 4 hours of makeup every morning, and I didn't know what a nightmare it was yet, because I had nothing to compare it to. You know, I'd never acted on television. Like, I'd never acted on a TV show before. So I didn't know that like 90-hour work weeks and 4 hours of prosthetics every morning and getting like hair glued to my arms and legs anytime my skin was exposed was going to be an unpleasant experience. But I learned a lot about acting and how to work with people. And then the show came out, and we like, you know, we went to the TCAs, and I don't know if you guys have been through those things, but you know, it's all the critics, and you have a panel, and what they were preparing us for was like, all right, so guys, just be prepared. Like, everyone's going to ask, like, is this a show? Is this about Geico? Is this like and then we got up on stage, and they're like, your show is racist. And it was like, oh my God, we were not ready for that. But it did prepare me slightly for, it was a great primer for like, you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know how things are going to be received. You don't know how things are going to, you know, you don't know what the process is going to be like. You don't know how hard a show is going to be to make. And it was a really good, for me, it was a really good first thing to do. And so when other things in my career have come up that have either stirred controversy or have gotten attention and not well received or whatever it was, it's like, having gone through that, even though I already was like, I was like 29, like, or so, I was like 28, 29. So I wasn't like a baby. So I think I was, even then, was ready. So now when something like Don't Worry, Darling comes out, and there's all this sort of controversy, drama, hoopla around it, like, I feel very fortunate that I'm like an adult, that I'm like in a position where I'm like, oh, this is crazy, but also like, you know, I feel prepared on some level for whatever this is, you know?
Well, thank you so much for being here. I mean, it's such a pleasure seeing you do whatever you do, and your new special is fabulous. And this "Don't Worry, Darling" moment has been so zany, and I thank you for, in any way, how you've contributed to it.
My small contribution to it.
Yes,
thank you.
No, I morsel you threw in. Yes,
thank you. But no, I feel really the combination of something like "Don't Worry, Darling" come out that I'm obviously not a small part of, but was very, very lucky to be a part of, and then my stand-up special, which feels so wholly something that I feel responsible for, and I hope people check it out on Netflix. It's streaming right now, and I'm very proud of it, and I hope people watch it and get to see something maybe from me that they haven't entirely seen yet. So yeah, that's about it.
But I just want to say, if people were paying attention to you ever at all, even just in the characters, any interview you've done, I mean, there's always been a sincerity there, so don't sell yourself short on that front.
Thank you. Thank you. Go back and watch the Caveman press tour. Not a lot of sincerity there. Go back to that.
I will.
Go see if you can find some footage from that.
I just looked up the numbers too, and like the final episodes of Caveman were averaging like 5 million people a week still.
Isn't that crazy?
Jesus.
That would be a hit.
Yeah.
That would be a hit right now. We were preempted for the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special the week of Thanksgiving. I knew we were in trouble the following week when we were preempted for the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving special.
Wow. Yeah.
But it would be a
coming
hit
in
now.
ahead of you.
Oh my God. Linus was testing very well. Thank you guys for having me. I'm a fan and happy to be here. So appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Nick.
you,
All right,
Nick.
guys. Take care. Thanks so much.
If you're wondering why all your friends were sharing a picture of a football to their Instagram stories over the weekend, the answer is that Rihanna is performing at the halftime show at the Super Bowl in February. This will allegedly end the music drought from Rihanna, who hasn't released an album since Auntie, and was kidnapped by DJ Khaled and forced to release the song Wild Thoughts.
Is that her
in,
last song?
2018. I think it might be.
The sample in that song is so funny. I'm sorry. Maria Maria, just as a reference point. I mean, I actually thought the song was okay, but Maria Maria as a reference point is just, Abercrombie 2000s culture in a major way.
You know what? Yes, because it came after Lemon, the NERD song in 2017. She has a song that she features on from Party Next Door in 2020, but no one's thinking about that song. Wild Thoughts is a moment.
Yeah,
it was
fun.
a moment, to be honest. And I love that Maria Maria sample too. It's so hilarious.
Yes. Yeah, it's a funny song. Also, you're right. A song that you heard all the time at the time and never since. Again, I believe there should be a German word for that. Again, I'm going to call it the despacitography. That's what I'm going to call it. But
those are the songs that you hear at Ira's parties.
Yes, precisely.
I'm always throwing on Wild Thoughts. But anyway, she was last on stage at the 2018 Grammys. And so this is Rihanna's return to remembering she's a singer.
Right, which she has more amnesia than all your faves on Days of Our Lives. I mean, she simply needs to be brought to her attention. How do you think this even came about? Like, obviously, Taylor Swift turned down the Super Bowl halftime show, but then minutes later, Rihanna took it. Does that mean they went to Rihanna and she's like, oh, that's a good idea, which seems crazy? Or did she say, it's my turn to come back, maybe I'll take the Super Bowl halftime show?
Well, there were new reports that it was never offered to Taylor Swift and that the Rock Nation and Jay-Z were always planning to give it to Rihanna, which then means that if she was second on the list, it's alleged that she was second on the list after Rihanna, if Rihanna did turn it down, and that maybe Taylor's team leaked that info that she was in talks just to be part of the conversation, Because it seems wild that it was Taylor is in talks to do the Super Bowl, and then truly same day, within 24 hours, Rihanna is announced, and then we've got all the graphics ready to go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that is a great point. The graphics were right there. Yeah, there was not a hiccup.
No one whipped that up in 5 seconds. So
no, with approvals from her team, please. They take a while.
Something's rotten in the state of Arizona.
Yeah,
where the Super Bowl will be.
Nice pull. I don't know if I would have known that. What's interesting though is I would say Rihanna's super fans, the best of what they consider her music, probably wouldn't necessarily be the huge singles, and because the Super Bowl halftime show sort of reduces people to their hugest moments, I almost feel like you can predict the entire show, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Billboard tried to do that, and it was disastrous.
What did they guess?
I'll keep it to Billboard's dream set list for Rihanna's Super Bowl, which is Don't Stop the Music / SOS.
To start?
Yes. To S&M, Rude Boy, a 3 medley moment with 3 ballads back to back with Love on the Brain, then Stay, then Diamonds. What are we doing here, girl?
No, just do Diamonds.
And then Needed Me, followed by someone at Billboard actually had the nerve to write Eminem medley with The Monster and Love the Way You Lie. We don't need Eminem on stage in 2023 at the Super Bowl. Wasn't he just there last year?
But by the way, there's, I feel like that could happen. Yeah, wasn't he there recently with Mary J. Blige and that weird house they built?
Yeah.
It was like a Sims house. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Eminem Can Wait.
Oh God.
Followed by Jay-Z medley featuring Talk That Talk, Run This Town, and Umbrella. And I don't see Rihanna doing back-to-back medleys with Eminem and Jay-Z, but okay, Billboard. Followed by an R9 track, because they assume she's going to debut a new song at the Super Bowl, which, wishful thinking.
Yeah, love the spirit.
Ending with We Found Love. What a wild playlist.
I'm trying to think if there's other things I would like. Wait, so is What's My Name not on there?
What's My Name's not on there. Only Girl in the World is not on here. And
that feels
also,
essential.
I feel like there's no way she
SOS?
That was the opener.
Oh, right, with Don't Stop the Music, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's no way she takes the Super Bowl stage and doesn't do a bit of Rockstar 101.
Yeah, there has to be a stomp moment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's predictable with the big hits, but also I feel like, she's going to switch it up a bit.
God, I hope so. I mean, also, choreography-wise, I'm curious what she'll do, just because it's been forever since we've seen her break it down that way. I am still mesmerized by that old, it's like a Vogue award show where she performs Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
What Rihanna was that? That feels like 50 stages ago. But anyway, she did a whole version of Madonna's Vogue, and I just didn't know she cared. It was a good moment.
It's been really fun to see her evolution as an artist, and it'll be nice to see her come back. And it's interesting because I'm like, whether or not we even get new music, it'll just be nice to see what she is planning to deliver. And I think it's I enjoy seeing Rihanna perform. I love the Anti-Tour. I saw the Anti-Tour. I saw the Only Girl in the World tour. The Anti-Tour was better. Only Girl in the World, she was still fumbling around stage, much like a football.
Yeah. You really understand the sport and where it is performed. Yeah.
Okay, I know that Brett Favre has swindled people out of millions.
Oh my God, that story! They keep adding figures to that. It keeps being like, "Oh, actually, it was 80 million. Oh, actually, it was 90." Yeah.
And aren't you just so disappointed that his wife Deanna isn't currently on a Real Housewives franchise? Because I would love this.
Yeah, right. We could be getting into the nitty gritty of it. Which Super Bowl halftime show do you find yourself watching the most recently? Because as you all know in Keep It Land, among YouTube videos that our friends watch before we all go out on a Friday or a Saturday, Super Bowl halftime shows are probably it's competitive with Drag Race lip sync performances for what we watch the most of. But
gay men of our age love that because you know what it is? It's basically that's why the Taylor stands were excited at first, because it's basically a mini concert you could put on at a pregame or an afters and just leave
right
it there.
And it's not actually the full concert. At my birthday, I'll leave on the Confessions tour, and that's I believe 7 hours long. So you need to move on.
Yeah, well, you do know that Disco Inferno is one of my favorite Madonna mixes ever.
Oh, yeah. With erotica? Yes.
Speaking of Madonna, I just want to side note that I was at the Eagle on Saturday with Jeremy O'Harris and Baz Luhrmann. And
what?
Very random. And to hear him discuss Madonna.
Oh, my God.
And it's Baz Luhrmann gave his idea, his thoughts on success in a career, and it is saying yes, even when you didn't want to, And he said that he wishes he had said yes more in his career than not to criticism, and he thinks that is one of Madonna's problems.
That she agrees with criticism, or she won't accept
disagrees
criticism.
with it. It won't accept it.
Oh yeah, she's very constitutionally opposed to most criticism. Even though I feel I can hear her in an interview being like, no. If I like where they're coming from, if I understand that they're this, I can hear her saying she's an artist and understands how art works, whatever. But the ego is so strong, and I say that appreciatively. I mean, I think that's the thing that's guided her this entire time. But right, an interesting note from Baz.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to hear that he wishes that he had said yes to criticism before in his life too. I wish he had for Australia.
Yeah, I would say, would that criticism
make
be?
it.
I'm having a seizure at your movie, Baz. Can you tone it down?
But honestly, I fucking love Elvis.
I think it's in my top 3 of his. I just thought it was ultimately a flashy Wikipedia movie.
I just feel like every frame there's something wild and insane, and I love revisiting it.
And of course, I've said this before, Elizabeth Debicki and The Great Gatsby. Love that performance.
Yeah. So, you know what? He did what he needed to do. And of course, The Great Gatsby has a fantastic soundtrack,
Yes.
produced by Jay-Z, who is producing the Super Bowl. Look how I brought it back.
We've been real, like, let's just go all over the place this episode. There wasn't that much pop culture this week. I don't know what to tell you people.
It truly wasn't. And I'm to get back to Rihanna, there's hopes that she'll be releasing new music around now, but like, I'm not going to count on it. Okay? I mean, Beyonce gave us an album and then said goodbye.
Right. She's like, guess what I won't be doing? Promoting it. Yeah.
There'll be no visuals to this yet. Even though Act 2 is allegedly coming soon. The songs were registered at the ASCPA, so we at least know that it exists.
Okay, right. That's true. Yes, that was. And by the way, whoever did that detective work and then immediately posted it online, thank you, because those are the internet people we need.
But I don't know. I would love a new Rihanna. I would love to know what Rihanna is feeling in this era. I think she's essential.
Yeah, there's no second one of her. Not been replaced, and which always feels kind of mind-boggling in that, she came on with Pond to Replay and these like perfectly listenable radio hits, and then evolved into something resembling just so serious and so rad. I mean, again, like the epitome of rad, which is the one of 4 adjectives I know.
There's been this recent conversation online too about the fact that Rihanna used to be, sort of like nasty and rude online,
Oh,
and
yeah. She had the time.
It's funny that era, she's moved past it now. She's businesswoman. She's mother,
But she still does follow those housewives. Like she has particular taste in petty housewives, which is where she uses that energy.
Yeah. I hope that, I can just, evolve into that someday. Just following the housewives, selling makeup, and my Twitter days are long behind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Your lips to God's ears. We all praying.
Well, can't keep my mouth shut. Yeah, we got to keep doing this every week.
That's true. Right. Yeah. Here you may speak.
But anyway, go football.
I love it. Actually, among sports, I hate it. I do not understand the drama of the game at all. I don't want you to throw shit, and I don't want that guy to catch it either.
Rank sports. I feel like football's entertaining to watch more so than
I totally don't agree. Again,
baseball I hate on TV. It's more entertaining in person, but it's also still very long.
I honestly feel that golf is more entertaining than both of those. Let me tell you why. Because like everything is a serve. Like here comes this whatever. Chip off the fringe. Oh, it's near the hole now? Well, did you see that? It's like you get to be a little bitch every time you do anything. Oh, I'm in the sand trap now? Now I'm not.
How do you feel about froth?
Something about Frisbee is both alpha and incel, so I don't like that.
The Frisbee has endured for quite some time, hasn't it?
Right. Well, dogs stay jumping. Who am I?
When's the last time you played Frisbee?
I was a good ultimate Frisbee player in high school.
Okay.
We would play that in gym class. Again, badminton is what I want to be the gay intramural sport because you can make your gay little faggot tennis noises, and then you get to swing a racket really hard. I know it's sort of happening for pickleball, and actually online wouldn't shut up about that last week, but pickleball is still ultimately a little slow.
And you get to plot murder while playing badminton.
Oh, yeah. And also it's a sport that's in like an E.M. Forster book. Yeah.
Oh, I've got plenty more to say about pickleball.
Oh, Jesus.
Just you wait. So, when we're back, keep it. And we are back with our favorite segment of the episode. It's Keep It. Lewis.
Yeah.
You already teased it in the episode, so I know what your Keep It is.
Yes. My Keep It, this isn't utterly uniform. There are things I like about the list, but is mainly to Rolling Stone's 100 Greatest TV Show list. For this reason. First of all, when you go to the list online, I've never seen this done before. You scroll to the bottom, and you think you're reading the number one, but it's actually an ad. And when I was reading it, it said number one, The Good Fight. And I about jumped into the ceiling. I said, The Good Fight is the greatest TV show of all time. You're saying Audrey McDonald is the world's greatest television star who ever lived? I want to be clear. I Love Lucy is beneath this. Anyway, that disappears. It's an ad. That's The Good Fight. Number one.
I don't know why you had to come for Audrey McDonald like that.
Ricky and the Flash star, Audrey McDonald? I don't know. The number one is The Sopranos. Okay, great. Number two is The Simpsons. Number three is Breaking Bad. Number four is The Wire. I would love to congratulate men for all they have given television. Thank you so much. My problem is, I think the people that are the most passionate about ranking things tend to be men, and they specifically, in terms of TV fandom, know what they consider to be the best of all time, and they love trumpeting that. They love saying it's The Sopranos. They love saying it's The Wire. They love saying it's Mad Men, Breaking Bad, whatever. And then they phone in the more distaff offerings of television and sort of just put them wherever they want in the list to make it seem like it's a balanced list. And so suddenly, Fleabag is number 5. I want to be clear that Fleabag has about 4 episodes and is lovely and is very good, but is not better than, say, I Love Lucy or even Mary Tyler Moore, which is like a few notches down on the list. It, to me, feels like they have their shows that they're obsessed with, which are male-led, generally speaking, and then the recency bias dictates what female-led offerings get considered great or the greatest of all time. And then the things that we actually do care about that were women-led, like Sex and the City, are pushed way the fuck down the list because people can't just admit that Sex and the City was amazing. It is number 79 on the list.
Yeah, it's the recency stuff is wild because Succession is like number 11, and I'm Succession Hive, but what? It's still on.
And plenty can still go wrong, etc. Yes.
Yeah, and you've got Game of Thrones at 31 over The Office, which seems interesting. I would put The Office actually higher than Game of Thrones.
I would too, definitely.
The placement of certain things is just very weird, but that's also what these lists are for, right?
I get that you're supposed to be upset, but guess what? I'm upset. So I'm going to go ahead
and... Where's Desperate Housewives?
Is it not on the list at all? As far as I can tell, it's not here. Unless they spelled it Cheers. Like Atlanta at number 9. Is that sincere?
Atlanta is at number 9 because of the reason The Wire is at number 3. And it's, it's, white people love to tell you to watch The Wire. And they love to tell you that they love Atlanta. And I'm not saying these shows aren't good, but it is a barometer that, like, when you ask a white person to name a black TV show that they love, it's Atlanta.
Got it.
There are actually plenty of others I would put above it, But Everybody Hates Chris, for example. 227. There's always a lack of interest in television shows that queer people would like, women, like black people, other people of color. It's very much the white men who've been reviewing television and telling us what's amazing are the people who are deciding things still, and it's not Alan Sepinwall, because I adore Alan Sepinwall's writing. He's fucking fantastic, but it's from a long tradition of what's been decided. It's great. I agree with The Sopranos being very high. I fucking love The Sopranos, but there's always this sort of, you'd better say Sopranos is the best TV show ever. Otherwise, you'll get shot.
It's wherever.
Whereas
yeah.
I think you can't do that with film so much anymore, or music. It's like there's room for everyone.
Sopranos.
As Gia Gunn would say.
Yes, that's right. Sopranos. I've only seen like a season and a half of it. I did not understand that Nancy Marchand on that show, who was an Emmy-winning veteran from Lou Grant, who plays Tony Soprano's mom, was fucking amazing on that show. Legendary performance. Wish more people talked about that. But
you gotta
anyway,
watch more than 1.5 seasons.
I know.
I don't know if you need to at this point.
That's just it. I mean, like, I just have to carve out a block where I'm like on vacation in some place where I don't want to go outside. Like, what are even the circumstances where this would happen? But anyway, it's a list that'll make you upset and also happy, as lists are supposed to do. So that's my keep it this week. Ira, what is your keep it?
My keep it goes to this game that has white gay men
Yeah.
in New York City in a chokehold.
And
It's
is that
called
sport
pickleball.
choking? Oh, pickleball.
Yeah, it is. No, I love choking. It's one of my favorite
Right.
sports.
Okay, that's
Call me
fair.
Homer
Right.
Simpson, okay?
Okay.
I love to choke, and Bart, I love to be choked.
Moving on.
I love the book Choke, okay?
Oh, okay. Wow, lots
From
of
Chuck
dictionary
Palahniuk.
definitions of the word choke here. Yes, I'm familiar.
I'm revealing a lot about myself this week. But
Well, after that
pickleball.
vulnerability talk with Nick, I understand. Yeah.
Pickleball. Maybe it's actually just a sign I know too many white people.
That could be.
Because why do I know about pickleball? Why do I know about it?
It's just one of those things where I guess there was an era where people didn't play it. I grew up playing it in gym class, but to me, it's just not amazing. It's like a B- sport, and now it's like taken over. I would prefer we stick with dodgeball to make sure gay anger is represented, as opposed to the light wooden tapping of a wiffle ball.
Is there a pickle in it?
There sure isn't.
There's no pickles. Like when you play, do you ever feel like, oh, wow, I'm really in a pickle now?
People often turn to an imaginary camera and they say, "I'm in a pickle now," when the volley's on the other side. Yeah.
I do that daily.
You act like Clarissa.
My life is constantly a caper.
Do you know what I loved about Clarissa? I mean, when she would turn to the camera, she'd always begin with like, "Here's the thing." I love like getting right into the, let me plop you right down with this. Anyway.
Yeah. There were probably like Nickelodeon network notes too that were like, can we get to the episode conflict quicker?
Yeah, right. Certainly. I think it was too early for that Dan Schneider guy to be involved, but who's to say?
Also, her brother, evil.
Oh, Ferguson?
Yeah.
Played by Jason Zimbler? Yes, I know.
Yeah. Evil.
No, everything about him was like, he was very inspired by someone like Alex P. Keaton, but if Alex P. Keaton were full evil, like that's what he was.
Yeah, but Alex P. Keaton in an SVU episode,
Right.
he was dangerously obsessed with his sister's business.
Yes, right. And also, like, you know what I miss about early Nickelodeon? The insults they would throw at everybody. Like on Salute Your Shorts, they would just say horrible things to each other. And on Clarissa, I mean, even calling someone Ferg Breath feels profane compared to what we get from children's programming now.
Also, wasn't it a huge twist when you realized Sam was not gay?
Well, that does seem impossible, given that he's just like climbing up in her window and being utterly benign, being unproblematic, if you will.
There were like the 3 episodes where they tried to date. Or maybe it was even a season.
No, it was like a couple of episodes. I think ultimately Sam was like maybe not good enough an actor for that to be developed. I picture him, the ladder showing up, he comes up, and the way he says, "Hey, Clarissa," is, "Hey, Clarissa." Like just barely getting the words out.
I like the parents on that show, though.
Yes. No, another thing Nickelodeon did well, they establishing the weirdness of adults. And like Pete and Pete, like the dad being sort of far away at all times, the mom with the plate in her head, the dad being an architect on Clarissa, and the mom being sort of normal and domestic, but then also daffy. Like they really made those characters like slyly dimensional and also silly.
Yeah. Anyway, pickleball. I did
Stop
also
it.
realize that it was like old, like from the 60s when it was first
Oh, yeah.
invented. Because I never played it as a kid, you know? I played basketball on the streets of Harlem.
Would love to see it.
Yeah, you know what I got?
Go ahead. I bet you don't. All right.
I've got the
You got
board
Looney
game.
Tunes
Sorry.
B-ball on SNES. Yeah, right.
Sorry was a really good board game, by the way.
Oh, Andy Herron, my friend in Chicago, and I talk about how satisfying Sorry is at all times. First of all, it can end friendships.
Well, talking about just shouting things at each other like on Nickelodeon shows, wasn't it so mean when you would just purposely target a friend and go,
yeah.
sorry?
Which, by
and
the way,
knock
the
them
commercials
out.
taught you to do. They're like, you're a cunt now. Okay, when we play Sorry, you're a little cunt. My friend Andy, he went on some trip where they all stayed in the house and played Sorry, and he's like, I had to leave the room. It got so bad. You know, because like sorry feels like such a personal offense. It feels like the world's against you when you play that game.
You know what? Maybe too many gay men are obsessed with Real Housewives, myself included, when all you really need to spice up a group trip or, friends hanging out is just pulling out the board game Sorry.
Yeah, right. That's like the real Ouija board. You want to be spooked? Get ready.
That or Monopoly, but Monopoly takes too long to play and is really only useful for destroying families.
Yes, that's true. I want to say quickly, speaking of Andy Herron, congratulations to Taylor on fucking Big Brother.
Taylor fucking Hale.
Oh, my God. Could you believe, first of all, the finale speech alone, which...
Best speech in Big Brother history.
Okay, it was a great speech, and everybody agrees it was a great speech. It was also very bold. Like it was her saying, the whole narrative is about me. So you have to believe that. Like that was some trickery, in addition to being, she made points, etc. But woof, we rarely get a victory where everybody feels exhilarated, like a sort of post-sex relief kind of thrill. And she just seems so fucking cool in general. Let's get her on the show. She should be on the show.
I think someone tweeted at me that she listens to Keep It. So
which means
get her on.
Which means she's dumber than she looks, because why is she listening to the show? Yeah.
She could be our co-host.
I would love that. But yeah, all right, great.
No, she's so amazing, and it's so interesting too, because like to win Big Brother, you have to get to the end, obviously, and then you have to convince the people who you kicked out of the house to vote for you. And she had some Dr. Will going on.
Yeah, no.
Like every person who won targeted her, went out the next week.
Yeah.
And she was on the block so many times and was constantly removed from the block. Everyone in the jury house, except for Turner, basically went in campaigning for her to win.
Yes. Right. Like all the light in the room bent towards her eventually.
That is mind missed, and it's just really beautiful. And honestly, like shout out to our Andy Herron-esque king Michael, who could have very well won too.
Right, a fabulous
player. He was it was fun seeing just sort of like a overtly gay man on a reality show like that also be a comp beast, because we used to see it on Survivor with like the Tysons, like those kind of people like just winning competition after competition, and it's like as soon as they don't win, we're getting rid of them.
Right.
And it was nice to see it in like the form of like a gay man.
And
he could have won if he hadn't. Those people always go out during like a double eviction.
Right. No, exactly. It's almost what that's built for, because they have to lose at some point and then get kicked out. He and Taylor would be a good, amazing race duo, for the record. I also want to congratulate Taylor for being kind of an unusual character for Big Brother. Like she was a narrator for us, but she was not. Like, her comedy was not broad, which is sort of what the comedy voice usually is in that show. She really kept it even keel and adult seeming, which feels like is not the prerogative of that show. So I guess congrats to the show for picking her. Yeah, very dry, very dry.
Yeah, which I could see why people would see she was a bitch. as some of them thought early on, but like you could tell that she wasn't.
Yeah, people
You
aren't
know?
accustomed to that kind of voice really anymore.
Mm-hmm.
People are too vulnerable and sincere.
Nick Kroll would not win Big Brother.
No, right? He would be out week 1 or 2. He'd be Pooch.
Pooch. I think Pooch is already selling things on Instagram, and he has such a pretty face.
Yes. Oh, I mean they routinely do very well in that department on Big Brother.
Yeah. Keep it though to Kyle being third in like America's favorite players rankings.
That's giving. I mean, like he's not an utterly evil person, but that fan base is giving the South will rise again. If you know what I'm saying.
I know, and it's torn between like wanting to be mad and just wanting to be like, please, some other non-white people scoop him up and like let him become a better person, because otherwise he'll go full Fox News commentator,
Right.
and we don't want more of them.
Right. There are enough. Yeah. The quote is
You
filled.
know? Ugh. Remember Tommy Lara?
I was just thinking about how so many of those names end up actually disappearing. Like, who talks about Ann Coulter anymore? Anyway, we need to end the conversation here. It's getting dark.
Well, she's on next week.
Talking about Don't Worry, Darling.
And that faggot Harry Styles. She would call him a faggot. And you know
Again.
what? It'd be funny.
No, once out of every 15 times. I mean, look, Anne's a lawyer. She has to be funny every once in a while.
I'd watch that sitcom. Ann Coulter, Attorney at Law.
The other She-Hulk, yes.
All right. That's our show this week. Thank you to Nick Kroll for joining us. And we've stopped worrying, darling.